Hey guys, welcome to the channel. My name is Amanda, and today we're talking about a true crime. I hope you're ready. So, I thought it'd be interesting to talk about some true crime stories that maybe either have been lost in time or don't get talked about over here in the US. And so today we're talking about Tracie Andrew. Have you heard of her? Not a cool-headed lady, I'll tell you that much. This occurred in Alvechurch, England, near Worcester. Yeah, we don't hear much about crimes that occur outside the States, or at least I don't. And if you are a true crime aficionado, or love hearing about true crimes, or maybe love is the wrong word, you like to hear about true crimes, or they fascinate you, or you like to keep up to date, then you've heard of all the ones that have occurred near you or in your country, and so you want to branch out a little bit. Well, that's what I did. I decided to go, well, what's happening in other countries? Are they just as messed up as we are over here? And yes, they are. Everyone's just as messed up. It doesn't matter what country you're in. There's going to be maybe different motivations, but the psyche of people is pretty much built the same. So here we are talking about Tracie Andrews. Andrews was a 27-year-old woman. She was a barmaid / model. Now we've all heard of that, the aspiring model. Plenty of stories like that over here. She was just like that. She had aspired to be a model, didn't quite fall into it. So now she's a barmaid. But she's very pretty, right? Gets lots of attention from the guys, and has a bit of a temper. So that's going to come into play. The victim here is her fiance, Lee Harvey. He was a 25-year-old bus driver. Good-looking guy. So you would say that they were a good match. They both had charisma, plenty of attention. I don't have a lot of backstory on Tracie Andrew, and I'm going to probably refer to her as just Andrew. I'm going to refer to people by their last name. Don't have a lot of backstory. So I don't have a lot of maybe why she acted the way she did. Unfortunately, I like to do that. I like to see kind of what set the person off. Maybe what built the person to be who they are. All we do know is that she had a trigger anger. It didn't take much to make this woman angry. Also, we don't have a whole lot about Harvey. What we do know is that he had a good nature to him, very sweet, didn't like a lot of confrontation, and so maybe that's why they fit together the way they did. And it's very unfortunate that things ended up the way they did. Andrew and Harvey had a troubled relationship. It was filled with arguments and physical fights. There's one account that states that Andrew bit Harvey at a pub in view of witnesses. This wasn't behind closed doors. This was in a public place where multiple people saw it occur. So there's this whole concept of what people are willing to do in front of other people. You can only imagine what's happening behind closed doors. Because what you're willing to let be seen, that's your comfort zone. Now imagine what you're uncomfortable with people seeing. What's happening there? Like how you eat. When you're out in public, you're probably a little more conservative with how you're eating. You're thinking about the fact that take little bites, but maybe when you're at home in front of the TV, you're slurping away, right? Take that concept and now apply it to how you treat your significant other in public. Now, what happens when you're not in public? She bit him in public. What is she willing to do when they get behind closed doors? Another story that states she hit him with a bottle and punched him for visiting her at her place of work. So remember, she's a barmaid. Your significant comes to visit you at your bar to say hi, maybe have a drink at the bar with you, and you hit him with a bottle and punch him for coming to say hi? Now, we can only speculate, and I'm gonna speculate. Remember, she was a good-looking girl, woman. She was 27 years old. And as a barmaid, a lot of your tips are made by conversation, flirting, having that rapport with your customers. So I'm guessing she was upset that he was there and kind of dampering her work, what she's doing to make money. But you don't hit him. You don't hit anyone for doing that. You tell them to go home. That's it. Maybe there's an argument, but there's no reason for the escalation of violence. And again, I go back to, if she's willing to do that in front of everyone, what's happening behind closed doors? And also, like to point out, if this had been the other way around, and it had been him who hit her with a bottle and punched her for showing up, would this story be going much farther? I don't think so. Andrews shared custody with an ex, and the ex also has claims that she made threats to him with a knife during exchanges of their daughter. So now we have repeated history of violence towards significant others. I mean, we're seeing patterns here. We're seeing dominoes being lined up. The ex clearly saw the red flags and left. Their daughter is only 5 years old at the time that the crime is committed. She had to have been much younger when they split. It's extremely unfortunate that a child even got brought into this relationship, but that happens, right? And we are not going to blame the ex nor the child for any of the incidents that are about to occur. So here we go. December 1st, 1996. Oh yeah, we're going back in time, you guys. A neighbor overhears the couple arguing earlier in the day. Andrew and Harvey went to the pub, and for those of you who don't know, but I feel like everyone will, a pub is a bar. It's a cool name, pub. Hoping to move past the argument. If you've been in a relationship, that happens. You argue and you want to reconcile, so you go out to do something together. It's like team building. Driving home, the arguing escalates. They never got past that initial argument, and they're arguing again, and it's escalating. Harvey pulls over at a place called Cooper Hill that Andrew attacked him with a penknife, striking his jugular and carotid artery. Harvey, bleeding to death, still tried to defend himself, rightfully so, and punched Andrew. And this is where this famous black eye comes from. Oh yes, this famous black eye. She's got a story for it too. The murder weapon was never found. Now, how do we know what the murder weapon was? If you've seen enough murder crime shows, you know how the coroner is able to identify size, shape, length, even how sharp an item was, just by looking at the wound, the marks it leaves behind. So they are extremely confident that it was a penknife. It is believed to have been a multi-purpose tool, and there was a curious blood stain inside Andrew's boot. It's because they believe that it could have been concealed there after the attack until she could have disposed of it. She thinks she's clever. And you'll see all the other ways that she thinks she's clever. Typically, murderers, criminals, they don't get away with it for very long. December 3rd, 1996. Andrew holds a press conference 2 days after the attack to tell the public how they were attacked in a road rage incident by a large man with staring eyes. That's her quote, staring eyes. Body language experts later, hindsight 2020, say that she gave away many clues as to her deception at this point. And I'm always very skeptical about body language experts after the fact. It's so easy to say, oh yeah, she gave away all the clues. Why weren't these clues identified then? Let's start creating techniques to identify things in the moment rather than in hindsight. I feel she probably gave away a lot of body indicators right then and there, and some steps should have been made at that moment instead of using up so many resources, especially given her history, given the witnesses. Sorry, going on a tangent there. It's just so many people like to say, oh, I knew it after the fact. What about in the moment? Fourth, Andrew overdoses and was hospitalized. This is an interesting fact. It's a big clue and reveals her own conscience and maybe perhaps, I don't know if guilt is the right thing, maybe fear of being caught, because if she overdoses and dies, then she's never caught. Again, speculation here, but I feel that's more likely than guilt in what she's done. Because if she had guilt in what she did, she just would have come out with it at the beginning. But fear in being caught and eliminating herself before being caught is a more likely reasoning, okay? December 7th, after running down leads, the police force, exhausting all the possibilities, it just didn't seem probable that road rage had caused the incident. And police arrest Andrew at the hospital. That tells you something as well. When they're willing to arrest someone in a hospital bed after overdosing, you don't just do that. Even when someone's just speculated as being guilty, you don't do that. You do that when there is some conclusive evidence, or at least some very heavy-handed probability. And that's what they had. Now we're gonna jump ahead some time because people get arrested and then things slow down. And we're often very impatient about that. That's just human nature, to be impatient. So we were December. Now we're going all the way to July 29th of 1997. The Crown Court, which is what they call their judicial system over in the UK, finds Tracie Andrew guilty and sentences her to life with a 14-year minimum. They do things differently overseas. She has a life sentence, but she has a very real probability of getting out after 14 years. And that seems bonkers to us over here. If you have a life sentence, you have a life sentence unless you contest it. But over there, they really don't like keeping people behind bars. They like to give them a chance to get out. So that's hers. She has 14 years minimum, and then she could get out. And it's not like our parole boards. She really, really has a chance to get out after 14 years. This relationship was really toxic. Harvey would get jealous of Andrew for paying attention to anyone but him, and Andrew would get jealous of Harvey for paying attention to anyone but her. It was toxic. Don't stay in toxic relationships. The mother of Harvey has been interviewed, and she begged him to get out of the relationship. He would have to come home, and he'd be bruised and just banged up, miserable. His mom was like, why are you still with her? I don't know what it is about that pull of someone you're with, even when they hurt you over and over and over again. And it goes both ways. As is seen in this case, we often think of it being just the guy hurting the girl, but the girl can hurt the guy too. Don't be the victim. Pull yourself out. She did this press conference with his parents and made these lies. These people attacked them, and she had done it all along. Now, was it premeditated? I don't know. Maybe she kept that multi-purpose tool on her for her own protection. Maybe she kept it on and because she just had it on her always in case she needed to use a multi-purpose tool for something. That is speculation. But she had it on her. And that night, she used it. And even as he was dying, he tried to defend himself. Don't find yourself in that place. Get yourself out. Dang. Now, you may be interested in this part or not, but Freud had some principles regarding the psyche, and one of them was the way the mind protects itself, our defense mechanisms, and a big one is displacement. And it really sounds like It really sounds like Andrew's was displacing a lot of her anger. And like I said, I don't have a background on her childhood, on her youth, so she may have some trauma from back then. I don't know. And regardless, it's no excuse. Don't mistake anything I say for an excuse. It's an understanding of the way the mind works. Back to this way the mind protects itself. Displacement. It really seems like she was displacing her anger. Did Harvey deserve the anger that she was putting on him? Did he? She was displacing all this anger on him. And when she did that, she got violent. A lot of us do this. We displace our emotions on people who don't deserve it. And it can happen in small amounts. Maybe your boss yells at you and you go home and you yell at someone for leaving their shoes at the front door when they should have put them on the shoe rack. Should you have yelled? Or should you have just said, can you please put your shoes on the shoe rack? But then it can also be big, like it is here, where when you see them walk into your place of work to say, hi, honey, you hit them upside the head with a beer bottle and punch them in the face. I mean, can you displace your anger any more than that? Who is she really angry at that she can use such violence? But I think it's a classic example of displacement. And we need to start being more aware of our defense mechanisms. Can we control them all the time? No. But can we learn to displace those emotions in a more conducive way for our relationships? I think that's more probable. Find something else that helps you release those emotions in a way that's not going to harm another living thing. Maybe when you're angry, you go for a run. You exhaust your body a little bit instead of yelling at your kids or hitting your spouse. Then it doesn't build up to where you're like Andrew's. And one night when you're arguing, it's just too much and you pull out a penknife and you stab their jugular. Crazy idea, right? It's been great talking to you. If you know of another random case in a different country, one that maybe we haven't heard over here in the US, I'm very curious about the ones we haven't heard. And ones that will have a bit of a what was going on in their mind. That's what I want to know. I want to dive into their minds. I'm very interested into what sets off a person to do such horrendous things so that we can maybe fix it for the future generations. All right, done being serious. Try to live better. I love you guys. Bye.